Hello, everybody. Welcome. We are so excited to chat today about Croatia. We will start in just a few minutes. So, in the meantime, let us know where you're tuning in from in the chat. Hello, Colleen from California. Welcome. Karen from Dallas. Welcome. Barb from Alberta. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Sandra and Paul. Welcome. Patty from Ontario, Canada. Welcome. Lisa says hi to everybody. Welcome. Jane Ann, thank you for joining us. Hello, Guy from Oregon Coast. Welcome. Hi, Carol and Charlotte. Welcome. Shirley from Kentucky. Hello. Wayne from DC. Welcome. We have Carol from Denver. Hello. Jessica from San Diego. Welcome. Wow, we have many of you from all places: New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Illinois. This is so great. Thank you, everyone, for joining. You folks from Canada. Hi, Gretchen from Colorado and Penny from Maryland. Welcome. All right, I think we can start in just a few seconds now. All right, hello, welcome everyone, or as they say in Croatian, dobar dan, or good day. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Claudia. I am from the Go Ahead team, and I'm coming to you live from my home in Puerto Rico. For today's travel talk, we are virtually traveling to Croatia and the Balkans to learn more about its diverse landscapes and rich history. We are joined today by two expert tour directors, Tamara and Maša, live from Croatia. They're here to share their stories and expertise with you all, and will introduce themselves in just a moment. Now, I want to make a very exciting announcement before we begin, and that is we are now running tours to Croatia. With availability starting as early as July, you can start dreaming about your Croatian escape and make it a reality this summer. All right, the plan today is to walk through some webinar tips so you can maximize your time with us. Then we'll go over what makes traveling to Croatia and the Balkans so amazing. And then our beloved tour directors will take it away and share their insights, as well as answer some of your questions. Now, we received a lot of pre-submitted questions, and we will try to answer as many as we can during our Q&A section at the end. But if we don't get to yours, please know that you can call or email us at any time. If this is your first webinar, welcome. We're so excited to have you here. Unlike a normal video call, your cameras and microphones are completely turned off. You will only see and hear me, your host, and our tour directors. We can't see nor hear you, but we do want to hear from you. Throughout this travel talk, please feel welcome to use the chat box to interact with each other and the Q&A box to post questions to our speakers. If you are joining us from Facebook, hello. And you can use the comment box there to ask questions during the Q&A section. I know many of you might have questions about your specific trips, and I encourage you to give us a call so we can answer those questions. For this time will be used to talk about Croatia and traveling to this area. All right, let's jump right in. Everybody, let's buckle our seatbelts. We're getting on the Go Ahead plane and virtually traveling to Croatia and the Balkans. Immerse yourself in the rich natural, cultural, historical, and gastronomic diversity in a place where Central, Eastern, and Southern Europe meet. A guided trip to Croatia and the Balkans offers a melting pot of cultures and architecture, like Roman ruins, Austro-Hungarian villas, and Ottoman bazaars. Hugging the turquoise waters of the Adriatic, Holidays through Croatia and Montenegro's glistening coastlines are filled with Venetian harbor towns and fascinating island resorts. A visit to Slovenia is a nature's lover's dream with pristine lakes and snow-capped peaks. Bosnia and Herzegovina, well known for its turbulent history, offers an inspiring insight into a country rediscovering its past with a wealth of historic monuments to discover from the Ottoman and medieval periods. Now, with that, it is my pleasure to introduce your wonderful speakers for today, Maša and Tamara. Maša, would you be so kind to introduce yourself to our friends watching?
Of course I will. Hello, Claudia. Hello, everyone. My name is Maša, and I've been working as a tour director with Go Ahead for 10 years now, leading tours in other European countries too. I enjoy firsthand concentrating on Croatian Balkans because, you know, home is always sweet home. What makes me very happy and also excited today is being able to share this beautiful taste of the wonderful journey that will be starting right in a few moments. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Maša. Tamara, could you introduce yourself as well?
Of course. Hi, everyone. I'm Tamara. Started leading EF educational tours in the mid-90s and Go Ahead tours about a decade later. Even though these travels took me all over Europe, I can say I'm specialized in Croatia and other former Yugoslavian countries and Italy, where I actually started this wonderful experience some 26 years ago.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tamara. Now, many of you might not be familiar with all the countries that make up the Balkans. So, Tamara, perhaps you can walk us through this map.
Of course. To make it easier for you who are watching, Croatia, as you can see, shaped like a crescent, sits between Bosnia and Herzegovina in the east and Slovenia in the west. Southeast of Bosnia, we have Montenegro, Albania, Macedonia, and Greece, where with the Cape Sunion, technically speaking, ends the Balkan Peninsula.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tamara. Now, first, we are going to hear from Tamara about our most popular tour, Croatia and the Balkans. And then Maša is going to take it away and talk about some of the other beautiful destinations you can visit in this region on tour. Now, let's dive in and hear a bit more about Croatia.
Well, we're actually seeing on this very first photo, the town of Dubrovnik. Our tour initiates from the very southeast corner of Croatia, known also as the Pearl of the Adriatic, the town of Dubrovnik itself. Just minutes upon landing during the transfer to the hotel, the first view you're going to see is of the entire medieval fortification, practically on the palm of your hand. Spectacular beginning of even more spectacular tour. Comes natural the invitation to walk a mile-long walk, circumnavigating the town. Peeking at Mincheta Tower, you could actually see it. It's the tallest of them all after the guided sightseeing.
Thank you, Tamara. Now we actually have a question from the audience, and Joanne wants to know how much walking is there on uneven surfaces?
You can actually see on the left side of this photo, there is this main street of Dubrovnik called Stradun. Like many Mediterranean towns, bigger and smaller ones, they are all paved with stone, and eventually there are a few stairs here and there. So it is demanding. I can't say it's not, but it is not impossible. Talking about the wall, once you negotiate the staircase going up and taking you to the level of the walls, you can actually even skip, if you don't want to walk too much, the taller part, the steeper part, and remain on the southern half that allows you to have a beautiful view over these red tiled roofs and also of the blue of the Adriatic Sea.
Thank you. Wow, this looks beautiful, Tamara. What are we looking at here?
The old harbor and St. John's fortress fortification. Well, we are going to admire that view on that evening when we offer the optional cruise that ends on St. Jacob's Beach, where we have dinner at the restaurant a few feet away from the sea. We're literally on a beach and we're watching at this. We're seeing Dubrovnik at night. Then we're taken back into this very harbor and we have pleasure to walk through. At that moment, you can see all the medieval strength, all the medieval flavor, atmosphere of it through the main streets before the bus picks us up on the opposite side of the wall. So we actually stroll through the whole town in the evening. Dubrovnik by night is unmissable.
Yes, it looks just like a postcard. Now, we have another question from the audience, and Michelle wants to know what kind of unique products are available for shopping in Croatia.
Well, you know, I showed you the Stradun Street, but there is another one, not so secret, but still Od Puća Street, called Od Puća, which hides jewelry stores with typical handmade coral, gold, and filigree silver pieces. Amongst them, the traditional botun earrings, button basically, the shape of a button, you can see them now, and also verižice, traditional bridal gifts for the wealthy ones. Of course, not everyone will be into shopping and everyone will get tired at some point. So no better place to rest your tired feet at a secret place. Again, not so secret anymore, but amazing. It's a task to find this bridge in the wall and sit on the terrace of the coffee shop overlooking the open sea. Situated right on the cliffs, on the outer side of the wall, it can't simply get any more infinite blue and relaxing than this, I would say. Otherwise, comes on my mind that if you would like to have a bite, you might opt for something else. You can have a few oysters, delicious oysters with a glass of wine at the local oyster bar, both coming from a nearby peninsula of Plitvice, the wine road of Croatia. Here you can see these delicious oysters. So there is a little bit of everything for, you know, all tastes. This tour offers another day in a country called Montenegro that my colleague Maša will be covering soon. It's an optional tour. But immediately after that day, on the way to Split, we are visiting another country. That's Bosnia and Herzegovina. We cross the border after leaving Dubrovnik. And here actually you witness that indeed cultures of East and West meet here in a melting pot of religions and also ethnic groups. We learn about this during the journey and the guided tour of Mostar as the main center of Herzegovina region. It is situated in the south of the country and enjoys a rather Mediterranean climate. Actually, it can get very hot in the summertime. You're seeing this beautiful bridge. It got completely destroyed in autumn of 1993, and then luckily pieces were taken back out of the Neretva River and put together in order to see it again as it was made in the 16th century. After hardly surviving the war, I'm talking about the entire city of Mostar, today Mostar results on UNESCO's list of World Heritage for its unique Middle Eastern cultural blend and all the flavors in the very heart of the Balkans, where you would maybe expect them to be. Crossing this famous bridge that you're looking at will be one of a kind experience, I must say. For every traveler, especially seeing these guys diving into freezing cold Neretva River is a little bit of a spectacular thing to see. But having lunch at one of the traditional restaurants and some healthy shopping before we set off towards Split that afternoon, well, I recommend that strongly too. And that afternoon, indeed, we set off towards Split. You will soon be seeing, I think, the picture of this Queen of Central Dalmatia. Dalmatia is a region of Croatia, and this is its very heart. Split is on a peninsula. You don't see it from this photo, but you will see it as we descend. You can see the shape of the mountain like a saddle. We actually descend by that road, and you don't see it well here, but again, while we are reaching this peninsula on which a Roman emperor called Diocletian decided to retire, building a lavish, more than 250,000 of square foot large residence in order to retire. And we are going to explore the following day during the guided tour. You will be able, so before we enter into Split, to see this mighty fortress overlooking the city called Klis, known to have been the residence of Croatian kings, but also the stronghold of the legendary pirates that you are going to hear about, called Uskoks. And this is the heart of Split, indeed, the Diocletian Palace, Diocletian's palace itself. Riva, the seafront promenade with palm trees, is the favorite spot, almost like a living room of its inhabitants. But let's start in the way we do our visit, with the visit of with a tour of Meštrović Gallery. So first thing, the following day we come here. This is a delight, I think, for the art lovers, and not only. Just minutes away from the city center, we visit this peaceful, elegant villa, home and studio of Ivan Meštrović, one of the most prominent, I can say, modern sculptors of Croatia had. A curiosity related to this charismatic artist, who wasn't only an artist, he was also a leading intellectual and politician of his time, that during the Second World War, he emigrated to the States, where he continued his artwork, but also teaching, became university professor, and ultimately died returning to his homeland only once. Once we leave Meštrović Gallery, we head back towards the old town with Marian Hill, which is one of the suggestions for your free time. And this is the view that you will be able to admire once you have crisscrossed the narrow lanes of the old town. It will be very pleasant for you, maybe in the afternoon, because it's very close to the popular seafront promenade Riva, but it's still an oasis to walk to. Passing through, I have to say, for this reason, I recommend it often, one of the most authentic neighborhoods of Split, situated at the hill's foot. It's called Varoš, with a former fisherman quarter, with small traditional homes, again, narrow lane,
Tamara.
village atmosphere. Yes?
Tamara, I think we have a few members in the audience who have a hard time hearing you. Is it possible for you to speak up? And I think there's some papers. We can hear some papers kind of floating around in the background.
Here we are. Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Can you hear me better now?
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so from this hill, once you come up, you can not only take wonderful pictures, but you can also visit very atmospheric Jewish cemetery that is right next to the viewpoint. And after returning to Riva, of course, in order to order a drink and enjoy watching people pass by, because that's one of the national sports, together with some healthy gossip, I suggest, because by that time you will probably be getting hungry, to go to one of the local restaurants. And if you haven't had some fish so far, go for it. Fresh fish, tuna steaks, octopus carpaccio, octopus under the bell that you can see on the right side of this photo, and meat for the meat lovers, meat under the bell, which is on the left-hand side. Basically, you stuff a container with all the goodies, meat, vegetables, potatoes, and then you top it up with charcoal and leave it cook in its own juice. It's really succulent. And this is something you can do in Split, but few restaurants where reservation is required, though, so it's very, very important to know. And that would be it for Split, for our stay in Split. What comes next is the actually last day we spend on the coast. We leave this Queen of Dalmatia, and we had visiting two picturesque Dalmatian towns called Zadar and Trogir, actually Trogir first and Zadar next, which grew out of Greek and Roman ancient settlements into medieval gems with today modern twist. After Zadar, we head inland and we come across this beauty. This is 150 kilometers long mountain called the Velebit. We have to get beyond this mighty Velebit mountain in order to reach the heart of Croatia and its continental plateaus bursting with crystal clear waters and magic they create in National Park of Plitvice, because this is where we are heading that day. So leaving the coastline and heading towards Plitvice, we will be spending 2 nights. This sparsely inhabited region, there is a curiosity related to it, called the Lika, is a homeland to an outstanding man, genial mind, a visionary, Nikola Tesla, the man who gave electricity to the world, by the way. I don't know whether you knew it, but you must have come across his name for sure. And then here we are at Plitvice National Park. This is one of the oldest national protected areas actually of Europe itself, on the UNESCO World Heritage List for its geological but also ecological value. With a 2-night stay, we have enough time to explore all of them, the lower and the upper ones, and also to unwind a little bit and get ready for what comes next, and it's Zagreb. Just a few things related or about these lakes, because people often want to know how hard it is to visit them. Well, boardwalk style trails lead all around the lakes, allowing you to get very close to them. And without disturbing delicate ecosystem. That's very ecosystem. That is very important. Canyons that you are seeing right now make for dramatic waterfalls, including Great Waterfall. That is the highest in the country. For some of our travelers, I can say Plitvice lakes are definitely the highlight of this tour. And after the second night in Plitvice, where you're going to get some good rest because we're immersed in nature and not much else, we're going to get to the capital of Croatia. This is where 1/4 of people who live in Croatia actually reside. And there is much of Austro-Hungarian feeling about this city. Unlike the coast, which is very much influenced by Italian Venetian shapes, here we have a total difference. First of all, medieval Zagreb was founded on 2 hills that make for the upper town, where we start our walking guided tour. During this tour, we're going to hear about so-called Croatian Zoo, which is a reference to its rather picturesque coat of arms with plentiful of animals on its crown, and then also about gas street lamps and legends of witches while heading to the Naive Art Museum. This is a very interesting museum that for many is a real eye-opener, fascinating cultural experience. This is more that you can experience in Zagreb during the free time, pavilion of Strossmayer, and then archaeological museum, and then beautiful botanical garden and several green areas that are shaped in a horseshoe, all situated downtown. Or you can simply take a tram that for the citizens over 65 is basically free, and you can have a ride around the city center. If you get hungry in Zagreb, my suggestion would be to taste strukli. Strukli are cottage stuffed, so cottage cheese stuffed ravioli that are perfect for light lunch, but also for, let's say, side dish together with some goulash or some stews. And then papreniaci biscuits. They are pepper biscuits that come excellent with a nice glass of full-bodied red wine, for instance. Zagreb is only 90 kilometers away from Ljubljana, but between the two, there is a border. So the following morning, we set off on this not so long journey that actually sees us reaching the border in almost half an hour. And arriving to Ljubljana well before lunchtime in order to meet our local guide and have the guided tour of the capital of Slovenia. The deeper we enter into the country, the more we realize that there is a lot of a Germanic feel about it, the architecture of its village homes, but also cozy squares once you reach the capital of Ljubljana that you are actually seeing. This is Prešeren Square on the Triple Bridge. Elegant buildings that you are going to actually get to see close by during this orientation guided tour with your local guide. But as I sooner or later mention or end up with talking about food, I can't miss to suggest one more time that Ljubljana Farmers Market is an excellent place to have a bite after you've learned something about the center of Ljubljana. So before you set off on exploring it on your own. And here we are. You can buy some fresh food from these stands, but you can also approach one of the stands nearby that prepare fresh food, and you can have proper lunch there while watching people. You remember that from Riva in Split, old habits die hard. So once you've had lunch, you can go and explore, for instance, on a funicular. So you rest your feet a little bit up to Ljubljana Castle. Now, Ljubljana Castle stands, or there is a park next to Ljubljana Castle. So after visiting a castle, you can have a walk in this park. And both are situated or perched on top of a hill around which the city center developed, by the way. So you can admire spectacular views of the city itself, but also if there are no too many clouds, of the Alps that are not far anymore, not far at all. And then coffee shops and restaurants along Ljubljanica River. This is one of those experiences not to miss, especially when it gets darker in the evening. I would recommend having a glass of excellent Slovenian champagne wine in one of these places. And if you really get hungry again, then mushroom soup is a must. Mushroom soup that Slovenians are very proud of. Actually, not only mushroom soup, they say that they can prepare well more than 100 different soups, but followed by Kranjska sausage from a town called Kranj that is not so far away from Ljubljana. You can say that you've had a typical Slovenian dinner, let's say.
Thank you, Tamara. That was such a great dive into our Croatian tour. Now, I'm sure we have folks that are already looking forward to this trip with all those incredible food dishes. We did get another question from a few people, and they want to know, is it worth adding the extension to Slovenia to this trip?
Oh, definitely. With staying longer in Slovenia, you round up this tour. You make it a real experience, full-time experience. You put all the tiles together. And the Balkans, especially their western part, become so much more clear and easy to understand for you. Besides the fact that extension includes incredible sights. First day from Ljubljana still, we go to Piran, so we visit Slovenian coast. Piran is a lovely place on the shore of Adriatic Sea, where you see pastel-colored facades and have a lovely walk along the seaside. While 2 more days, so the following morning, we leave Ljubljana and we dedicate entirely to a fairy tale experience in Bled and Bohinj lakes. We stay 2 nights in Bled. You're looking at it right now. It is a beautiful lake with the only island that exists in Slovenia right in its center. And naturally come 2 suggestions for your free time. This is something that actually often during these tours we do together with our travelers. We take a walk around the lake. It's a 4-mile walk and it's really, really pleasant. and or we take Pletna boat ride. These Pletnas are flat-bottomed boats, as you can see on the picture. They take you right at the foot of this island, and then you're left there for a little time to explore, and then brought back on the lakeside in order to enjoy maybe dinner and prepare for the following day, by the way, because the last day of the tour is a glorious day. One of my favorite ones, to be honest. It's a Triglav National Park tour. When I think about it, I get very emotional because it connects several things. It's full immersion into a spectacular nature in the first place. Triglav is three-headed mountains. Glava means head, so Triglav, three heads at roughly 10,000 feet. It is surrounded by equally mighty mountains that take your breath away, really mesmerizing views. And then it's also the place where once we take the bus ride, of course, we're not hiking, across these mountain paths, we reach the Alpine Valley with the Socha River that you could see a moment ago, emerald green river, incredibly cold, but we get so close that you can put your feet into it. But that's not it, because then comes the moment when you can visit military fortifications from the First World War. You can literally enter with your fellow travelers into the trenches. And the whole things become so much more real, pleasant, unpleasant, but really educational. And after all, these are educational tours. So a very strong emotion at the end of the tour that, of course, make you a little hungry by the end. So either you opt to have one of the grilled trouts that are fished in these wild rivers, or as we return to the Bled Lake, you can see the cream cake, cremna rezina. We gather up for our farewell drink, and we all have this cake. Well, I think that this can easily be considered the crown of a surprisingly dynamic and diversified tour. Starts from Dubrovnik, remember where we started from, the pearl of the Adriatic, and ends among sheer and often snow-capped alpine peaks. Can't get better than that, I think. So no wonder why our guests sometimes say they don't want to leave.
This is so fantastic, Tamara. Thank you. Before we continue, I actually have two questions from the audience, and Lynn wants to know if you can speak to how much time approximately will be spent riding on the bus.
There are considerable bus transfers, I have to say. So I can't say that we won't spend time on the bus. Starting with our transfer from Dubrovnik via Mostar to Split, that's one long day. Maybe even this last day, the optional I was talking about, where we see the Triglav, the Alpine peaks, and the Socha River. For those who, for instance, are car sick or don't like heights, maybe is not the most recommended of tours, of course. And there is a bus ride that it does last long time, but we stop so frequently to take photo, to stretch our legs, or to go and check out something else. So it's more of an exploration, but it does actually involve some bus rides or some hours spent on the bus, because after all, we have to come all the way from Dubrovnik up to the Alps on the very border with Italy and Austria.
Thank you, Tamara. And then the next question is, should travelers learn a few Croatian phrases, or do most people in this area speak English?
Most people do speak English, so travelers won't have any problems communicating with the locals, but I do suggest strongly. Our languages are a little tough, full of consonants, sometimes difficult to pronounce, but if you get prepared, I mean, if you come prepared on this tour, we'll have more fun on the bus. trying to put together some phrases that then you can practice during the tour. So I do recommend learning a few phrases, not for the sake of making yourself understood, but because it's fun learning a language of the country you're in.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tamara.
You're very welcome.
I can see why this tour is one of our best sellers. And now I am really excited to introduce this next tour because it's a brand new tour on our small group tour portfolio. And for those of you who aren't familiar with this travel style, these are tours where you can learn about the world alongside 10 to 22 travelers in off the beaten path locations. Each tour features immersive hands-on group travel experiences that'll connect you with the local community and your fellow travelers. And with that, we have the wonderful Maša, who will talk a little bit more about this tour. Maša?
Thank you, Claudia. Thank you for giving me the word. Okay, so we are all ready to go. I hope so. We are in Greece. So welcome to Athens and immerse yourself into this bustling Mediterranean capital with the Oriental breeze. The first photo we are seeing is, of course, the hill, which is one of the most popular hills in the Greece. After visiting its ancient sites and hearing about magnificent Greek history, enjoy the charming stroll around the Athens' most famous pedestrian areas, which are located just beneath this beautiful place. The picturesque pedestrian areas are called Monastiraki and Plaka. Also have a look at wood carvings, needlework, ceramics, and other traditional little shops that you can see all around you. And after leaving Athens, find out why ancient Greeks believed Delphi was the center of the earth by seeing its site raised on the slope of a high mountain terrace of a mountain of Parnassos. The very next day, admire Meteora monasteries, extraordinary buildings perched on seemingly inaccessible pinnacles of rock, which we are seeing right now. Of course, what place would it be without the legend? So the legend has it that Saint Athanasius himself, who was the founder of the great Meteoren, the earliest of the buildings, flew up to the rock on the back of an eagle. What else to say, but let your imagination create exclusively yours fairy tale in this truly magical and mystical place, as we are leaving Greece, of course. Continuing our trip, we cross into North Macedonia, country who actually recently changed its name. And we stop along in Dihovo village, located at the edges of the Pelister National Park. It's a beautiful area surrounded by thick pine forests and rushing mountain streams. As you can see on this photo, here you have a unique opportunity to learn more about beekeeping as one of the long-lasting traditions of the area. As we proceed our way toward our next stop in the North Macedonia, you see one of my favorite photos, I must say. This is a photo of Ohrid Lake. Ohrid itself is a small town in the southwest of the country that's home to 365 churches. Can you believe that? One for every day of the year. I bet this is something you didn't know at all about North Macedonia. The most beautiful of them all, and also my favorite one, is St. John of Caneos Church, the one we are seeing right now. From each side, you look at it, I'll promise you this is something that you will never forget. The city of Ohrid actually is the only UNESCO World Heritage Site, and also one of the only 28 locations in the world to be on both UNESCO's cultural and heritage site list. Can you imagine this? The main reason for this is Ohrid Lake, to be estimated more than 4 million years old. The impression that water portion leaves you with is absolutely more of the sea than of the lake, both by its size and also by the beautiful blue color that you can actually see in this photo.
Yes, Masha, this looks absolutely stunning. And looking at those boats in the picture, I want to bring up a question from our audience. And Monica wants to know, is it a water portion on this tour?
Sure, Monica. There is a water portion to this trip. The one is happening right here in Ohrid. The second one is happening in Montenegro, and then the very last one in Dubrovnik, which is actually something that Tamara has already mentioned, the cruise by the end of the tour. So you can count on like at least 3 boat rides in duration of 45 minutes to, let's say, 1 hour, up to 1 hour. So
Thank you, Masha.
as we move forward, this amazing picture is showing the impressive sized Samuel Fortress. I know the photo can't actually tell how big this place is. This is one of the main sites of Ohrid town, and we're visiting this within the local guided tour. This fortress was the capital of the First Bulgarian Empire during the rule of Tsar Samuel of Bulgaria at the turn of the 11th century, but the fortification itself stood up here much earlier. Also within the guided tour, we visit the prehistoric settlement on the lake shores. You remember talking about how old the lake was. Then you wouldn't be surprised to discover that there is a reconstructed pile dwelling settlement, actually dating back to the Bronze and Iron Age, which was about 1200, between 12, actually the 1200 and 700 BC. This place is called Bay of Bones Museum, and we stopped there along our way to visit. It's really an impressive cultural landmark, and I can tell you, for those who love to discover about Iron Bronze Age, this is putting totally another picture to the whole area. And now, what it would be without mentioning one of the most unique souvenirs that you can get while visiting Ohrid. This is something that you can find anywhere else in the world. Ladies, please, a little bit of your attention is needed now. 2 old Ohrid families have made these pearls. The families are named Filevi and Talevi. The story goes back to the early 1920s when these 2 families got the secret recipe from supposedly the Russian soldier, and they started producing these pearls, this beautiful jewelry, and the whole process of making it still nowadays remains a closely guarded secret. As you can see on our photo, even Queen of England is a proud owner of Ohrid pearls, of a beautiful necklace, specially designed for her only by Talevi family. And before we leave Macedonia, we have to talk a little bit about food, as Macedonia, North Macedonia nowadays, is the biggest producer and the most important producer of the veggies, tomatoes, you know, eggplants. So are you surprised to actually learn that do not miss to taste in Macedonia is ajvar, which is actually one of the most delicious Macedonian specialties. This would be a slow-cooked vegetable spread made of peppers, onions, and eggplants. This is also a perfect souvenir for maybe someone who prefers the food, you know, because this is packed in a jar and can endure a long journey back home. As we head in direction of our next destination on this journey, which is Tirana, the capital of Albania. As we cross into Albania, we stop in Uka winery for a lunch. and also to learn more about Albanian first organic wine production and its native grape variety. Maybe you will surprised to learn that actually there is also wine, and pretty good wine, produced in Albania. And you will find more about this from our hosts that you can also see on the photo right now. They are father and son who did an unbelievably great job in introducing Albanian wines to the rest of the world. So
Maša, speaking of these food items, we actually have a question from the audience, which I'm actually interested in knowing, because as a gluten-free person myself, I'm interested in knowing if there are gluten-free options to have on tour, or in general, any dietary restrictions that people might have. Can you accommodate that?
I would say that nowadays, yes, it is quite common, I believe, everywhere you travel, that, you know, people come more and more with certain intolerances. Like gluten-free is one of the most common intolerances, which we do have on the tours very often. In almost every tour, you have at least one person who is gluten intolerant. So yes, we can pretty easily accommodate those needs. I would say also, as for the vegetarians and vegans lately, so we are getting better and better. Of course, this shouldn't be taken for granted every time, but we are really trying our best to accommodate all possible needs that we might have from our clients.
Thank you so much, Maša.
You're welcome. Well, as we approach the capital of Albania, Tirana, that we are seeing right now on the photo, it will seem to you that all roads lead to a Skanderbeg Square, maybe a little bit tricky to pronounce. Once you've been there, you'll understand why. This main square is named after an Albanian national hero, and this is also the heart of the city. A statue of the Skanderbeg sits in the middle of the square, but all around are actually the Adham Bey Mosque, the Opera House, and also the National Museum, which we are visiting within our guided tour. Yes, this is actually the building itself, with this very impressive mural in front of it on its first facade, actually. So we are visiting this within our local guided tour. And I also wanted to say that this square lately, in the last years, has been converted into the pedestrian area. So, you know, now a lot of locals, a lot of Albanians sits there daily. They let their children play all around. Some people are riding bicycles, some people are walking their dogs around. So this is like the let's say, it's a favorite relaxing and just pastime place in Tirana. So this is not to be missed, and we can't actually miss it while on tour. Of course, telling the story, the history of Albania, we can't skip the story about the 45-year period of Albanian communism and tyranny. Bankart and Bankart 2 are two museums built inside two coveted anti-nuclear buildings. We can see the Bankart 2 on the photo right now. This is right in the middle of the town. So this is near all the main landmarks of the city. So this is very accessible place, and this is a must visit. You shouldn't skip this. Only one interesting fact that I wanted to say and emphasize now is that during the rule of Enver Hoxha, the leader, the communist leader, over 173 bunkers had been constructed all around the countries. 173,000 bunkers had been constructed all over the country of Albania. That's give you an idea of how this country, how tough this regime used to be in this country. So in early 90s, as people got liberated, they actually started breeding and opening toward the rest of the world. That's why they are still a little bit like, you know, undiscovered gem. So this is the right time to visit Albania as well. Besides the bunkers, right on the main town's boulevard, which we are seeing next, sits the Enver Hoxha pyramid. This was designed as a museum by the late Albanian communist leader's daughter. And this was opened in 1988 to show his power and to maintain his legacy as well. After the fall of the communism, this unique monument, also known as the Pyramid of Tirana, because actually it has the shape of the pyramid, became a symbol of the previous era. Everyone who likes uncommon looking places should visit this monument, actually. As we move to the next photo, we are actually seeing the neighborhood of Tirana, which during the communist rule was reserved for high-ranking communist officials. There still remains of the checkpoints, and it was actually hard to pass into this area unless you were a highly ranked politician. Everyone was thoroughly checked. Even the leader of Albania, Enver Hoxha, lived here, and on this photo you can literally see the building where he had his private apartment. This is actually quite scary nowadays, but this most expensive area is today full of trendy bars, cafes, restaurants, and nightclubs, giving this area a cosmopolitan vibe. And must try while in Tirana, talking about the food again. This is called kefte. Maybe it will be strange to pronounce it again. What is this? These are the grilled meatballs, very typical food for Albania. Generally, kefte are seasoned with spices and mint and served with raw onion and salad. This is a delicious lunch. And of course, what lunch would it be without being accompanied by a dessert? So the dessert that we are seeing on this photo, on the right part of it, is trileche. This will sound very Spanish to you because it is Spanish actually, and means cake with three milk. Because trileche is prepared with milk, cream, and concentrated milk. I can tell you this is a pleasure for the palate, and also it is a fresh cake, perfect for the warm Albanian days, in particular during the summertime. The optional trip on this tour, which gives you an additional value and sums up the story and experience of Albania, is definitely actually a trip which takes you to the Kruje town. This is the panorama that we are seeing. This is the hometown of Skanderbeg, the national hero of Albania. He was the greatest hero of all times because he fought against the Turks, the Ottomans, to save Albania and the rest of the West from their advance. We visit also the museum dedicated to this great man, which is located in the castle of Kruje. That is the photo that actually we are seeing right now. This is located on the top of this, it's kind of a hill town, and from here you can see the beautiful view of surrounding mountains and also Tirana being down in the distance. The view is just spectacular, and the museum is also very special itself. After the locally guided tour of Kruje, please take some time to walk through the old bazaar of Kruje. It looks like a fairy tale place with small wooden boutiques, narrow cobblestone streets, and colorful textiles. You'll find plenty of cool souvenirs such as carpets made by local artisans, cups in which to drink Turkish coffee, which is also a popular thing in the whole area of the Balkans, not just in Albania. Some kind of clothes, and even original Albanian cognac. It's the national drink of Albania, named shortly after who else but Skanderbeg. Again, you can see how tough this guy used to look. He's pretty scary, right? From Albania, we are getting closer to the final, actually the second final country of our trip, which is Montenegro. Once we cross the border into Montenegro, enjoy a laid-back boat ride on the biggest natural lake of all the Balkans, Skadar Lake. This is the panorama that we are seeing right now. This lake is also the natural border between Albania and Montenegro, so it's quite an important portion of water for both of the countries. Right before arriving to Budva, which is the coastal town where we are spending our 2 nights in Montenegro, use the opportunity for taking the picture of one of the most photographed places in Montenegro, St. Stephen Island, or Sveti Stefan, as we would call it in Montenegrin. This island resort, as you can see it, used to be the most exclusive accommodation still back in Yugoslavia, not only now. It used to be visited by many celebrities, and nowadays it's also reserved for rich and famous only.
Maša, San Stephen Island looks pretty spectacular in this photo. I actually heard a rumor that Prince Charles and Diana were meant to spend their honeymoon here. Now, did that actually happen?
Yes, Claudia, thank you for asking me that. However, we also heard those rumors too, but it actually never happened. They never came, at least not for their honeymoon. Here, they ended up on a royal boat somewhere else. But, you know, many celebrities, like, for example, back in the past, Elizabeth Taylor, Sophia Loren, and more recently, like Angelina Jolie, you know. So basically, you need a lot of money to be able to spend a couple of nights in this truly unique place.
Okay, great. So when we become famous from these travel talks, we can go and vacation there.
Exactly. I agree with that. Now, the beauty that we are seeing on this photo is Kotor. This is our visit. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The old Kotor town is the most beautiful and best preserved town in Montenegro. We are visiting this within the locally guided tour. Today, as back in the 17th century, same, Kotor embodies this magical spirit of the Venetian Republic, which ruled over Kotor for nearly 400 years. The first thing to do is to wander the romantic streets and large piazzas like the one you are seeing right now. In your free time, climb the fortress of San Giovanni, which would be the Italian version of the name, or if you prefer, St. John or Sveti Ivan. And this spectacular view of the old town and the Boca Bay will truly take your breath away. This is worth every each one of 1,355 steps to the top of the fortress, taking you past a 15th century church and ruins of military buildings too. From here, you can admire the beauty of so-called only fjord of the Mediterranean, even though we know this isn't the fjord geologically, but morphologically, it does resembles it. Upon return to Budva from Kotor, because Budva is where we are actually staying in the hotel. It's within half an hour, 35 minutes distance, one from another. Make sure you use the afternoon in Budva to just admire this beautiful town, to get lost in its ancient old town streets, or pay a visit to the citadel, which we are also seeing in this photo, the citadel and the walls, or just simply skip it all and relax in one of the numerous pebbly beaches, if you prefer doing that. So these are the narrow cobblestone roads of Budva. And here we are seeing my favorite beach, which is a Mogren beach. Believe it or not, even though it doesn't look like that from the photo that we are seeing, this is easily accessible within a 10 minutes walk from the old town. And after you get there, you think you find yourself in a paradise.
This is so beautiful, Maša. Now, we have a question from the audience, and Margaret wants to know, what is a must try for food and beverage?
Of course. What a tour would it be without another delicacy, this time from Montenegro? While in Montenegro, don't miss to taste njeguši ham or prosciutto, or as we say in our language, pršut. This is a protected national food specialty of Montenegro. It is a delicacy smoked and dried on the wind. During the harsh winters in Montenegrin mountains, you can see how appealing it looks. And it goes very well accompanied by rakia, which is the strong spirit on the left part of the picture, made from distilled grapes. And then on the right hand side of the picture, we also see the Vranac wine, which is the typical wine from Montenegro. And also this brand Plantage is the one most typical from Montenegro. So this is the best red of Montenegro, and my favorite too, because, well, I'm obviously a wine lover. As we proceed and as we are getting closer and closer back to Dubrovnik, before we reach the final country, Croatia, and Dubrovnik, the pearl of the Adriatic, where we are actually ending this tour, we make our very last stop in maybe the most magical place in Montenegro, Baroque town of Perast. Here, during the course of the centuries, 20 palaces were built in Baroque style, 17 Catholic and 2 Orthodox churches. In front of the town of Perast, at only 5 minutes distance by boat, floats the only man-made island in Montenegro. Our Lady of the Rocks is its name. Learn more about creation of this 15th century island. There is another important legend, of course, and also learn about the significance of its votive church for the neighboring people, often called as a Sistine Chapel of Boca Bay. This also tells you how artistically important this small little church is. Also, hear most about actually the most romantic and devoted love story from Montenegro. I like love stories and legends, and this one is related to this indeed spectacular place, telling about the Jacinta Kunic, who was a local lady from Perast, and she waited for 25 years her darling to return from the long journey. In the meantime, producing an incredible piece of art that today you can see in the church museum. But for all these reasons, you have to really enroll yourself into this program and visit these places, as they are really magnificent. So with this, Claudia, I would actually round up the story, because at this point we're crossing back into Croatia and getting to Dubrovnik, which Tamara was already talking about.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Maša. So this tour actually ends in Croatia, but since Tamara already covered that, we'll continue on with our Q&A. Now, I know that we are at time, unfortunately. So for those of you who can't stay for a few extra minutes, thank you so much for joining us. Now, for those of you who would like to stay and have a few more minutes, we're actually going to go straight into the Q&A. And so now let's see. Okay, first question. The question is from Terry, and Terry wants to know, what is considered high season for this trip? And when would you recommend to visit for reduced crowds, but still decent weather? Maša, can you speak to that?
Sure, Claudia. Thank you. Thank you for the question. Definitely my favorite period and the less crowded would be already starting with the March or April if you're looking for like a low season, or October, even November in the fall time, because this is already the time where actually when you have much less tourists than during the May, June, July, August, also September, because they're pretty busy, and the weather is still pretty nice both in April and in November, let's say.
Thank you, Maša.
Welcome.
Tamara, this question is for you, and Karen wants to know, are all of the Balkan countries open now? I know Croatia, but what other countries are open? Oh, Tamara, you're on mute, sorry.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. As far as I know, we have a departure starting on the 15th of July, and we ought to go to Montenegro and Bosnia. That means, let me tell you frankly, I'm hearing about this now because so close these countries are, but during the pandemic, we haven't had the chance to go there either. So we're all craving to get back there. I think that they are open for sure. So I can tell you that one can go to Montenegro, one can go to Bosnia. Unfortunately, we still can't access Slovenia for some reason, but I think that's coming up soon as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Tamara. Now, Maša, we have a question from Javier, and Javier wants to know, are dollars usually accepted in tourist places, or do you need to change money into the local currency?
You would need to change the money into the local currency in most of the places. If they are shops, run by the state or by the privates, yes, you would definitely have to use, or also in the restaurants and bars, for the taxi drivers, public transportation, they would all need more like a local currency. But in some highly touristy places, like for example, in some places in Dubrovnik also, they would accept sometimes both euros or dollars. However, this shouldn't be taken for granted, because the only legal currency still in Croatia is only Croatian kuna. So according to the laws and regulations, you are supposed to have a local money.
Okay. Thank you, Maša.
You're welcome.
Now we have a question. Let's see here. Question from Linda. And Linda wants to know, what will we find most surprising and delightful about Croatia? And I think, Tamara, you can go first, and then Maša, if you have anything to add, you can also help us here.
The variety, I'd say, and perfect combination of history and nature. Full stop. It simply, day by day, gets better and better, but immense variety. It's never dull. It's always colorful. It's always dramatic peaks and blue, either sky or sea or emerald green river, plentiful of water, tough history to handle even by us local guides who have this very responsible task, because again, these are educational tours, to unveil, to explain in a way how it went and why. So I don't think you can actually feel bored during this tour. And also opportunity to hike for those who like to do that, to adventure themselves onto some fortifications or hills sitting by where it's possible. And we do have actually free time for that. So you are definitely not going to be bored during this tour.
Thank you, Tamara. Maša, anything you'd like to add?
Sure. Well, I would like to first say that I agree with Tamara at this point, as we are both doing this tour. So yeah, we can talk about it. However, I would also like to add the people of Croatia, because when you're traveling to a country, people is what actually makes it different one from another. Yes, places are beautiful too, but the warmth and the hospitality of the people in Croatia is something that Croatia is also very well known for.
Thank you, Maša. That is very true. Well, I think this concludes our Q&A section of this presentation or this travel talk. Thank you so much to both of you for answering our travelers' questions. I know we get so many of them and we hope to answer them sometime in the future. Now, like I mentioned in the beginning, we are now officially running tours to Croatia again this July. So if you're interested in getting to know Croatia even more and enjoy its beautiful coastlines and fresh seafood like you saw, you can go ahead and go to goaheadtours.com/CRO to check out available dates or call us anytime. Just to let you know, vaccination is required to enter Croatia. And right now, Slovenia is closed, like some of you mentioned in the chat, but we hope that by September, it will be open. And Tamara will be running our first tours in July. So we are, of course, very excited about that.
I'm also looking very much forward to starting and welcoming our guests in July, indeed.
Yes, definitely. Now, if you enjoyed yourself just like we did, please mark your calendars for our upcoming travel talks. We have 4 destination spotlights coming up. London, Paris, and Rome on June 29th, Venice, Florence, and Rome on July 13th, Portugal on July 27th, and Vienna, Budapest, and Prague on August 10th. And you can go to goaheadtours.com/webinar to sign up for any or all of them. All right, Tamara and Maša, thank you so much for joining us today and for answering our travelers' questions and sharing some of those wonderful stories with us. Any parting words that you'd like to say to our audience watching?
Thank you for giving us opportunity to talk about these countries that we lived in, we love, and we again look very much forward to showing to people who come from elsewhere around. So do come, we're waiting for you. And thank you again. Hvala lijepa.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Ciao.